Good afternoon, everyone. Let's start with Grassroots Democracy 73rd and 74th Amendments. So, after years of experiment that started in 1952 with Community Development Project, and after submission of various committee reports, it was found out that without giving constitutional backing, constitutional recognition to Panchayati Raj institution, they cannot function effectively. So this realization led to enactment of 73rd Constitutional Amendment in 1992, followed by 74 a year later, and these enactments fundamentally redefined local governance in India. And these amendments were not just a legal change; they were a democratic revolution. They empower millions of rural citizens and urban citizens, especially marginalized communities and women, giving them a formal voice in local governance. Now, as a background, जो हमने पिछले वीडियो में देखा था, that before 1992, Panchayati Raj, they were largely a state subject. This was a flexibility given to state government. फिर this flexibility was more often than not misused, and इसकी वजह से जो पंचायती राज का स्ट्रक्चर है वो ऑल ओवर इंडिया में इट हैड अ वेरिंग स्ट्रक्चर, क्योंकि फ्लेक्सिबिलिटी इनके पास थी तो हर स्टेट अपने हिसाब से रूल्स एंड रेगुलेशन उनके अपने थे. Then the Panchayati Raj in many states they were either weak or non-existent at all. फिर जहाँ भी पंचायती राज थे या तो they were superseded by state government or run by bureaucrats. The elections were irregular or financial strengths they were pulled by states. So because all of these things, panchayats reduced to mere extension of state governments. Fair years of committee recommendations, Balwant Rai Mehta, Ashok Mehta, G.V.K. Rao, L.M. Singhvi, all of them, they underscored, highlighted this point that without constitutional protection, without constitutional recognition, Panchayati Raj would never be truly democratic or functional. So that's why this constitutional change was necessary. Now, the salient features of 73rd Amendment Act. First, constitutional status to Panchayati Raj, and they become part of Constitution, Part 9, Article 243 to 243O, and this ensured legal uniformity, preventing arbitrary state action like dissolution or non-conduct of elections. So somebody might ask, what does it mean to give constitutional status to something? So if Panchayati Raj has been given constitutional status, what has changed? So first, if something is given a constitutional status, then it means it has entered the constitution. It has entered the rule book that governs whole of India. You can call it pan-Indian law. So first, there is an element of legal uniformity that if it enters into the constitution, then it will be applicable uh, from the whole length and breadth of India. And second, if this rule is violated, if this law is violated, then the aggrieved person, he can approach Supreme Court, he can approach High Court, the judiciary is there, because this is a rule that defines our country. That is why it is placed in constitution. So constitutional status के साथ ही हर कोई चीज़ जो है it is given extra safeguards. Now the second salient feature, 3-tier system of PRIs at village level Gram Panchayat, at block level Panchayat Samiti, and at district level Jila Parishad. And here flexibility has been given to states with less than 20 lakh population. They could skip the middle layer, that is they can skip the Panchayat Samiti. Now third salient feature, regular and compulsory election, mandatory election every 5 years. Then if dissolved, fresh elections within 6 months, and then conducted by an independent state election commission. So again, if constitutional status has been provided, if these things, these rules have been listed in constitution, then they become mandatory. They, their applicability, their implementation, it becomes mandatory. Then reservation of status. SCs and STs, they have reserved seats that is proportional to their population at all levels, and 33% reservation for women that later increased to 50% by several states. And next feature, establishment of state finance commission, that every 5 years states must set up state finance commission that would recommend distribution of financial resources to PRIs. तो PRIs को financial resources कैसे मिलेंगे, and then methods of fund devolution and revenue generation, कि उनको देने के लिए जो पैसा है, fund है, वो कहाँ से generate होगा, and then this fund will be devolved in which way. Next feature, district planning committees. So DPCs, this system was introduced so that हर जिले के अंदर, हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट के अंदर इंटीग्रेटेड यूनिफॉर्म डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल प्लानिंग हो सके, इन्वॉल्व हो सके, एंड देन they can take cues from both state government and union government. Then PRI plan, they were integrated with municipal and district plan to avoid overlapping and ensure balanced development. So here the integrated district level planning, it means that their plan, the plan of PRIs, Panchayat, they are integrated with municipal and district plans. क्योंकि हर डिस्ट्रिक्ट के अंदर एक एक बड़ी सिटी होगी ही, देन बड़ी सिटी यानी अर्बन लोकल गवर्नमेंट, अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज़ वो होगी, फिर उसके अलावा डिस्ट्रिक्ट कलेक्टर के पास डिस्ट्रिक्ट लेवल प्लान भी होंगे. सो all these plans, municipal, district plans and panchayat plan, all were integrated so that balanced development can be ensured. Next feature, devolution of powers under 11th schedule. So in the schedules, 29 subjects were devolved. They were assigned to panchayats that range from agriculture to welfare programs, key sector such as agriculture, land reforms and irrigation, animal husbandry, dairy, fisheries. पंचायत को वही सब फंक्शन दिए गए हैं जो उनके साथ टच होते हैं, जिनके जिनके साथ उनका डे टू डे फेस ऑफ होता है. So rural housing, drinking water, health and sanitation, education, primary and adult, social welfare, especially for SC, ST, public distribution system, roads, bridges, electrification, minus forest produce, all at local level, and then maintenance of community assets, that too at local level. Now impact. So this was world's largest experiment in participatory democracy. 2.6 lakh gram panchayats, 6,000 plus panchayat samitis and 500 plus Jila Parishads, all were created with one amendment. Over 3 million elected representatives, nearly 46% of women due to progressive reservation policies. PRIs became the largest elected body in the world, directly representing rural diversity. This political participation surged later, especially among women, SC, STs and OBCs, that created a pipeline of local leaders. Those leaders जो सरपंच बन के बाद में धीरे धीरे MLA, MP and reached union politics. Then stories of female sarpanch leading campaign on education, sanitation, and health, it also reshaped gender roles. So these were the major impacts. Now the structure and function of Panchayati Raj institution. First, at Gram Panchayat village level, Gram Panchayat is headed by a sarpanch and elected panches. कहीं कहीं पे they are known as ward panch. Then the governing body, the oversight body, that is Gram Sabha, which include all adults, is the foundation that approve plans and audit panchayat action. Key functions: the panchayat, they prepare village development plans, they look after sanitation, water supply and minor irrigation project, primary education, health centers, often they are the registry of maintaining proper records such as that of birth, death, marriage records, and funds from local taxes, grants and state schemes. At second level, that is block level or tehsil level, panchayat samiti structure, elected representative plus MLAs, MPs and government officials. They link ग्राम पंचायत एक तहसील के अंदर जितनी भी आती है with जिला परिषद. A function of panchayat samiti: agricultural development, land and water conservation, run school, health centers, roads and bridges. They implement social welfare schemes such as Narega, midday meal, famine works, and they supervise and coordinate panchayat activities all over. And finally, Jila Parishad at district level, that is chaired by an elected president. Members include MLAs, MPs, and Panchayat Samiti heads. Its functions include plan and execute district level development programs, manage large scale infrastructure, irrigation, education, and health projects all over the district, coordinate with the state and central scheme, and mobilize resources via taxes, grants, and project specific funds. Now, let's have a look at shortcoming and implementation gap of 73rd Amendment Committee reports and findings. First one is second ARC report on local governance 2007. Key observation. First, incomplete devolution. So many states they fail to transfer all 29 subjects that are listed in 11 schedules. Second observation, fund function mismatch. So while responsibilities were assigned, corresponding funds were not transferred. That made PRIs ineffective. Third observation, weak district planning committees. So district planning committees they exist largely on paper, dominated by bureaucracy, especially by district collector, and they are no real integrated planning. Then last observation that Gram Sabhas were largely dysfunctional because people they do not attend at all, and deliberations are minimal, often manipulated by local elites. So these are on ground conditions of implementation of these reforms. Now, recommendations: mandatory devolution of all 29 subjects, strengthen DPC as real planning body, empower Gram Sabha with budget oversight and social audit powers, and finally, professionalize Panchayati administration. Now, the second committee report by Comptroller and Auditor General of India. So, observation first, financial dependence. So, PRIs they rely heavily on state and centrally sponsored scheme. Local revenue collection is very low. Then delayed and irregular SFCs, State Finance Commission, जो उसमें आप देखा था कि under constitutional status, every state must set up SFC at every 5 years. But many states they fail to set up any SFC. अभी भी बहुत सारे स्टेट जो है उन्होंने इन अमेंडमेंट के बाद अभी भी बहुत सारे स्टेट जो है टोटल काउंट अप में they had not set up state finance commission after every 5 years. Mismatches are there. Then lapses in social audits. So ग्राम सभाs जैसे दूसरी रिपोर्ट में देखा था they are largely dysfunctional. They rarely conduct audits and weak accountability it leads to fund misuse and corruption. So ग्राम सभा का ये है कि if you look at the overall structure in India, so these three vertical institutions they mirror each other: union parliament or union government, then state legislature, then local government. So these institutions they mirror each other in the way that here the executive body, the government or council of minister, it is controlled by union parliament. In the same way, state legislature में जो state council of minister it is controlled by the state legislature, the state legislative assembly. फिर local government में यही पंचायत जो ग्राम पंचायत है it is controlled by ग्राम सभा. But ग्राम सभा में ये है कि ग्राम सभा they are dysfunctional just because अभी भी बहुत सारे states में बहुत सारे गांव में the panchayats they are run by the elites and powerful people. फिर यहाँ पे ग्राम सभा जो होती है वो it becomes largely inactive क्योंकि फिर उनको जो जो एलिट्स कहते हैं जिनके कंट्रोल में ये पंचायती पावर है, ये पॉलिटिकल पावर है, वही डिसीजंस जो है टोटल कंट्रोल उन्हीं का रहता है। सो ग्राम सभा में जो बाकी लोग हैं, मोस्टली पुअर, वो फिर उनके पास बोलने के लिए कुछ नहीं रहता। सो इस वजह से ये जो ऑडिट मैकेनिज्म है ये नहीं हो पाता। तो इसीलिए यहाँ पे दिस थिंग इज written here that ग्राम सभा रेयरली कंडक्ट ऑडिट। देन फिर जब वो ऑडिट नहीं करते तो वीक अकाउंटेबिलिटी इज देयर, फिर फंड मिस यूज एंड करप्शन हो गई। और उनमें से भी ग्राम सभा में अगर एक दो कोई ऐसा है जो वो डेयर्स टू स्पीक अप, और ये उसके फिर दो ही उसके आउटकम्स होते हैं। फर्स्ट, इफ द वन हु डेयर टू स्पीक अप, अगर वो पावरफुल है या फिर उसके पास रिसोर्सेज है, तो फिर उसको इसी करप्शन में ही विल एंटर इनटू द कल्यूजन। फिर जो भी फंड है थोड़ा सा शेयर उसी को मिल जाएगा एंड ही विल बी साइलेंस्ड। बट अदर आउटकम, अगर जो जिसने बोलने की हिम्मत की है एंड ही हैज़ no such financial or political support, then he will be eliminated. That's the reality. Then the capacity gaps, lack of trained human resources, elected PRI representative unable to utilize funds effectively. So जो ग्राम सभा होती है, ग्राम पंचायत होती है, उनमें जो भी ह्यूमन रिसोर्स है, स्पेशली जो गवर्नमेंट से रिक्रूटेड होते हैं, ग्राम सेवक होते हैं, जो पटवारी होते हैं, जो एलडीसीज होते हैं, ऑल ऑफ दीज दे आर नॉट प्रॉपरली ट्रेन। जो इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है वो भी नहीं होता, कहीं कहीं पे वैकेंसी भी बहुत सारी होती है, तो यहाँ पे एक कैपेसिटी गैप्स भी बहुत होता है। नाउ द recommendations: timely constitution and implementation of SFC recommendations, regular capacity building program for PRI members, and ensure Gram Sabha audits and public disclosure of panchayat finances. Now the third observation by Niti Aayog report, and observations are: lack of digital literacy and data system. PRI function without robust data or planning tools, especially in aspirational district, क्योंकि नीति आयोग जो है it was established after the BJP government came in power, or the BJP with its digitalization rally, it has worked really well, but जो विलेज लेवल की बात करें तो वहाँ पे द प्रॉपर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर इज नॉट देयर। और फिर इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर है तो भी जो डिजिटल पेनिट्रेशन होता है, डिजिटल पेनिट्रेशन मीन्स डिजिटल कनेक्टिविटी हो गया, टूल्स हो गया, डिजिटल लिटरेसी हो गया, वो भी कम है। दैन टेक्नोलॉजी गैप, वीक अडॉप्शन ऑफ ई गवर्नेंस टूल्स फॉर मॉनिटरिंग एंड प्लानिंग, क्योंकि अगेन दिस इज रिलेटेड टू डिजिटल लिटरेसी। Then elite capture, PRI decision making is dominated by influential local groups, and the marginalized communities, they are often hushed up, they remain unheard. Now recommendation: push for e-panchayat and data-driven planning at village level, targeted scheme to build PRI capacity in marginalized and backward regions, and strengthen Gram Sabha as a platform for marginalized voice. Now the next report, Ministry of Panchayati Raj Evaluation Report. It observed variable implementation across states. Some states have vibrant PRIs such as Kerala, Karnataka, but many remain symbolic, UP and Bihar. Then proxy representation, women and marginalized elected members often act as proxy for male or dominated caste relative. So this is another one of the way the constitutional features they have been bypassed. So this सरपंच पति कंसेप्ट ये चलता है अभी भी बहुत सारे स्टेट में, कि फीमेल अगर सीट जो है रिजर्व है फॉर फीमेल मेंबर, तो अपने ही घर के किसी फीमेल को इलेक्शन में खड़ा करते हैं, बट द रियल पावर इट इज हेल्ड बाय द हस्बैंड, द मेल मेंबर। सो दैट्स व्हाई दिस सरपंच पति कंसेप्ट इज देयर। देन फिर जो मार्जिनलाइज कम्युनिटीज़ हैं लाइक SC, ST एंड OBCs, उनमें भी ये प्रॉक्सी सिस्टम शुरू हो जाता है, दैट जो डोमिनेंट कास्ट हैं वो फिर किसी एक SC मेंबर्स को खड़ा कर देते हैं, but the real power is held by them. Then no clear functional support. PRIs they lack technical staff accountability or engineer for program execution. Recommendation: mandatory functional devolution that link to fiscal transfer, which means fiscal transfer means जो यूनियन गवर्नमेंट एंड स्टेट गवर्नमेंट से दोनों से जो फंड आता है, जो फिजिकल ट्रांसफर्स हैं फॉर एनी स्कीम या प्लान रिलेटेड जो भी फंड आते हैं, देन वो फंक्शनल डिवोल्यूशन हो, मतलब किस चीज़ के लिए वो फंड आ रहे हैं. सो इन अनदर वे, जैसे अगर वही फंड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए आ रहे हैं, सो वो फंड आ भी गया, बट ये जितने भी आप ऑब्जर्वेशन देख रहे हैं, जो ऑन ग्राउंड जो रियलिटी है, उसके हिसाब से ये सारा का सारा पैसा जो है ये लोगों की जेब में ही जा रहा है, करप्शन. सो इससे बेटर है जो ये है कि जो फंड्स जो है वो फंक्शनल डिवोल्यूशन है, क्योंकि 29 फंक्शंस दिए गए हैं इनको. सो जो भी फंड है वो इनके अकॉर्डिंग हो, एग्रीकल्चर को जा रहा है, सैनिटेशन को जा रहा है, प्राइमरी हेल्थ सेंटर को जा रहा है, इस हिसाब से अगर फंड अगर डिवॉल्व हुए, फंड अगर ट्रांसफर हुए, then accountability can be maintained. Now, the observation by L.M. Singhvi committee, it predicted that without constitutional safeguard, PRI would face political and administrative indifference, and it stressed the need for empowered Gram Sabha. Then, after implementation, it found out that most Gram Sabha are ineffective even after giving constitutional safeguards, and top-down control by state government is still there. So state government are still pulling the string even after the constitutional backing. Now the Planning Commission and expert group studies, they found out that the three functions, the three F's, functions, funds and functionaries, they remain incomplete. So first 29 functions are there, fund जो भी इनको मिल रहा है, UG, यूनियन गवर्नमेंट, स्टेट गवर्नमेंट, एंड देन उनको भी जो फंड कलेक्शन के लिए जो उनको पावर दी गई है, दे आर नॉट प्रॉपरली यूटिलाइज. एंड फंक्शनरी मीन्स द होल स्टाफ, all PRI members, whether elected or recruited. Then line department overreach. So state department, they continue to control key programs like health, education and water. Then about MG Narega and welfare scheme. So execution, it is mostly handled by block or district official with limited panchayat role. Now recommendation: integrate welfare and development scheme fully under panchayat control. Second, create PRI cadres at block and district level. Now recurring thematic shortcomings, क्योंकि आप देख रहे हैं कि बहुत सारे जो shortcomings हैं, they are recurring, they are repetitive. So first, partial devolution. So only a few states, Kerala, Karnataka, they fully devolved 29 functions. Other state government, they kept the major function to themselves. Financial weakness. So this revenue raising capacity is minimal. Even after the constitution, it has provided PRIs with revenue generation capacity, but वो revenue generate नहीं कर पा रहे हैं. So this make them rely on state government और union government for grants. और उसकी वजह से अगर आप किसी और पे पैसे के लिए डिपेंड रहते हैं, then it dilutes your autonomy. The next recurring theme, bureaucratic control. So district officials, they overshadow the panchayat leaders. Now the next, elite capture mechanism, the dominant caste groups, they manipulate PRIs, and SC/ST women, they act as proxy members. Then the ineffectiveness of Gram Sabha, this theme has repeated many a times and observed by many committees that meetings are infrequent or often controlled, no real grassroots democracy. Then about technical manpower. So panchayat, it lacks engineer, planners, finance officer to execute large projects. Then the issue of delayed election. that several states delay panchayat election that violate the spirit of that. Now, the unfinished democratic decentralization. So, while all of these report they found out reveal that PRIs they are still politically, financially, and administratively weak, and the way forward suggested by these committees that the devolution of three F's should be mandatory. Three F's: functions, funds, and functionality. Then SFCs they should be strengthened and implemented. The report should be implemented. And first, they should be established after every 5 years. Then Gram Sabha, their power should be revived, and they should be further empowered with proper safeguard to conduct social audits. Then ultimately, invest in PRI specific human resource and technology driven governance. Without these reforms, panchayats risk becoming mere contract execution agencies rather than true institutional local governments. Now, the 74th Constitutional Amendment Act of 1992. So, again, the background. So, when India marched towards modernity post independence, rapid urbanization became a defining feature. So, for that, ULBs were created before 74th Amendment, but they were also infested with the same weaknesses such as irregular elections, weak functional and financial autonomy, excessive state government control, and inadequate citizen participation. So they were given constitutional status under 74th Amendment, placed under Part 9A of Constitution from Article 243P to 243ZG, and came into effect in 1993. Now, salient features: constitutional status to urban local bodies, they became constitutionally recognized. Three-tier structure: Nagar Panchayats for transitional area that move from rural to urban, municipal council for smaller urban areas, and municipal corporation for large urban areas and metropolitan cities. Now, the composition and electoral framework: direct election for councillor by the people. Then seats are reserved for SCs, STs, and women, 33, that was later increased to 50% in many states. Then state may allow direct or indirect election of mayors. Next feature: fixed tenure and regular elections. So 5 year fixed tenure for all ULBs. Elections must be held before the term ends or within 6 months of dissolution. Then election overseen by independent state election commission. So ये वाले features जो हैं ये they are similar to PRIs. Now functional devolution. So these functions were placed under 12th schedule. 18 core functions were assigned, such as urban planning, land use and building regulation, water supply, sanitation and solid waste management, public health, slum improvement and urban poverty alleviation, fire services, urban forestry and environmental protection, provision of urban amenities, street lighting, parking and burial grounds. Next, district and metropolitan planning committees. So district planning committees that integrates rural and urban plan for balanced district development. Then in areas where metro cities are there, metropolitan cities are there, metropolitan planning committee, they are created for large cities that ensure coordinated planning across multiple municipalities and agencies. Now, financial empowerment. So, State Finance Commission should be constituted every 5 years, and it should recommend first resource sharing between state and ULBs, then ways to strengthen ULB revenues. And one such functions have been given an extra, that is ULBs they have been authorized to raise revenue via property tax, user charges and advertisement tax, and by borrowing with state approval. Now, impact of 74th Amendment. First, regular election and grassroots urban democracy, that ULB elections became regular in most states, and women they start women SCs and STs started entering the urban politics. Second impact, expanded role in service delivery. So ULBs now handle waste management, water supply, health, housing, and slum development, and they also became a frontline agencies for various central schemes such as Amrut, Swachh Bharat Mission, Smart Cities Mission, and PMAY Urban Housing for All. Key achievements and progressive examples. First, Kerala model of urban decentralization. So Kerala government it devolved all aiding function to ULBs, and urban bodies they are involved in planning, budgeting, and service delivery, but with much required financial autonomy and capacity building programs for municipal staff and elected representatives. They are also undertaken by this Kerala government. And another success story, the Surat, it transformed from a plague-hit city to a model of urban cleanliness and solid waste management. अभी भी ये top cities में आता है, especially cleanliness and solid waste management में. Then Pune and Bangalore, these cities they leverage digital tools for citizen engagement, smart governance, and feature prominently in the urban agenda. Now, the types of ULBs. First is municipal corporation, also known as Mahanagarpalika. Applicability, large urban areas with population over 1 million, and the structure, governance structure, it is governed by a mayor and councillor with administrative functions managed by municipal commissioner. Functions, urban planning, public health, sanitation, fire service, urban forestry, most of the functions, 18 functions. Now, second layer, municipal council, also known as Nagarpalika. Applicability, smaller urban areas, uh, and population range between 1 lakh to 10 lakh. It is led by a chairperson and councillors are there. So councillor और ग्राम पंचायत में आप जो वार्ड पंच होते हैं वो, then mayor and sarpanch, they are equivalent, and function similar to municipal corporation but on a smaller scale. And third comes Nagar Panchayat. Now, this body is created for transitional areas. This transitional area that transition from rural to urban. Population is less than 1 lakh, and it comprises a chairperson and members. Now, shortcomings and implementation insights from committee and reports. First, limited fiscal autonomy. So it has been observed that they are among the weakest globally in terms of fiscal autonomy because most of them they rely heavily on state and central grants. And the source of this observation is RBI report on municipal financial details. This report emphasized that excessive dependence on higher government it tears the it hampers the ability of ULBs to perform effectively. Thing is same. If your finances are controlled by someone else, then most of the political power will also be controlled by it. Then the second observation, inadequate devolution of functions. The source is CAG report on implementation of 74th Amendment, and it found out that while 17 out of 18 function has been devolved to all ULBs, but only 4 functions have been effectively devolved with autonomy. The rest of the 14 functions are still controlled by the state government. So critical functions like urban planning and fire service, they remain under state control. Now, the next observation is human resource constraint. Again, the report is CAG report on implementation of 74th Amendment. So it observed that ULB still face significant staff shortages with average vacancy rate of 37%. Now, the fourth observation is weak institutional mechanism, and this has been assessed by various reports on urban governance. So it was found out that DPCs, district planning committees, and MPCs, which are NVCs for integrated planning, are either non-functional or dominated by state appointed officials. Now, the next observation, financial health concerns, that there is a 42% gap between resource and expenditures of ULB. इसका मतलब है that ULBs are generating uh, less resources than the expenditure, and only 29% of their expenditure they are directed towards programmatic and development works. So you can see the the mismatch and corruption कि फर्स्ट उनके इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर में 42 का गैप है, देन उस लेस इनकम में भी जो उनके पास फंड्स आ रहे हैं उसका 29% जो है इट इज़ डायरेक्टेड टूवर्ड्स, सॉरी 29% फंड जो है वही प्रोग्रामेटिक वर्क या मीनिंगफुल वर्क्स के लिए डाइवर्ट हो रहा है। बाकी जो है इट्स 71%, 71% funds they are diverted towards non-meaningful works which may include corruption. So corruption इसमें से भी काफ़ी जा ही रहा होगा, but uh, in short it means severe fund mismanagement. ये तो आप खुद समझ सकते हैं कि जितना भी उनके पास फंड आ रहा है उसमें से सिर्फ 29% ही मीनिंगफुल वर्क्स के लिए जा रहा है, डेवलपमेंट वर्क्स के लिए जा रहा है। बाकी 71% जो है वो उनका अगर एडमिनिस्ट्रेटिव वर्क्स में जा रहा है, दूसरे जितने भी लग्जरी एक्सपेंसेस हैं उनके अंदर जा रहा है, इवन करप्शन में भी। तो दिस दिस शोज द हाई डिग्री ऑफ फंड मिसमैनेजमेंट। Now let's take a look at the road ahead. So these are the suggestions given by various committees. First, strengthen financial autonomy, empower ULBs with independent taxation power. दी हुई है उनको taxation power independent, but they are not able to generate sufficient revenue out of it. Then introduce innovative financial mechanism like municipal bond, land value capture. So these innovative financial tools they can help in revenue generation on a large scale. क्योंकि मेट्रोपॉलिटन की बात करते हैं तो हमारे पास ऐसी भी सिटीज़ हैं जो मतलब काफ़ी काफ़ी सारा रेवेन्यू जनरेट कर सकती है इफ़ दे engage in such innovative mechanisms. आप मुंबई की बात करते हैं, the financial hub of India. So Mumbai can easily generate, you can say, around 1 lakh crore out of its pocket. So, but this revenue generation, it needs such critical thinking, out of the box thinking, innovative thinking. Now the next suggestion is a complete devolution of function. Transfer planning, housing, environment, and fire services, they should be fully devolved to ULBs. Third suggestion is to invest in capacity building, professionalize urban administration with trained staff, digital tools, and urban management courses. Then strengthen planning committees, make DPCs and MPCs effective. Then citizen participation and transparency. So ये सारे जो recommendations हैं, they are, you can call them रिपीटेड थीम्स। बहुत सारी कमेटी इन रिपोर्ट्स जो है ये बार बार ये कह रही है, बट दीज टू आर इम्पॉर्टेंट। सो फर्स्ट म्यूनिसिपल बॉन्ड्स जो है ये एक मैकेनिज़्म है जिसके ज़रिए जो मेट्रोज हैं दे कैन जनरेट सिग्निफिकेंट रेवेन्यू। And the second, land value capture. This is again one such mechanism. Land pooling can be there, and we can take cues from global best practices to find many such innovative financing tactics. And recently you might have heard about C40, so वो भी एक अच्छा इनिशिएटिव है। बट देन यूपीएससी के पोटेंशियल से आई वुड सजेस्ट कि जो ये जो रिपीटेटिव थीम्स हैं कि डीपीसी एमपीसी जो है स्ट्रेंथन इन्वेस्ट इन कैपेसिटी बिल्डिंग वगैरह, तो ये सब रिपोर्ट्स जो हैं ये तो काफ़ी टाइम से कह रही है। बट इफ़ द सेम प्रॉब्लम रिमेन then you need to dig further and go at the root. There might be something, some you can say some rotten thing deep down there that is infesting the whole infrastructure, is infesting the whole building. So most of the things are regarding, uh, you can say, the red tapeism and the lack of innovative critical thinking or innovative after the box thinking. So if you can find some suggestion that really that can really help ULBs to generate a lot of revenue, revenue generate हो जाए, then the second element, the जो fund mismanagement है, इसको reduce करो. ये दोनों अगर चीज़ें हो जाएं, फर्स्ट फंड जनरेशन, उसके लिए जो भी न्यू टूल्स हैं, टेक्निक्स हैं, न्यू आइडियाज़ हैं, देन फंड मिसमैनेजमेंट, इसको इम्प्रूव करने का तरीका, ये दोनों हो जाए तो मोस्ट ऑफ द अर्बन लोकल बॉडीज़, ये दे विल एंटर top 50 of the world. Now let's have a look at significance of 73rd and 74th constitutional amendments. So these amendments, they institutionalize the third tier of governance, which embodies the principle of democratic decentralized theories by John Jacques Rousseau. Now, contextualizing the 73rd and 74th Amendment within democratic decentralization theory. So, the principle of subsidiarity that is often associated with European democratic theory, it argues that governance should be handled by the smallest, lowest, and least centralized competent authority. And this resonates with the idea of Gandhi's Gram Swaraj, where villages were to be autonomous units of self-rule. So this subsidiarity principle, it is about giving power to the smallest level. But after first 4 decades of Indian democracy, which were marked by centralized planning and development, it was seen that local uh, the idea of local governance was not given the due attention. And then बाकी जो reports हैं, बलवंत राय मेहता committee, अशोक मेहता committee, all of them, they examines all the shortcomings, advocating democratic decentralization as a remedy for implementation failure of centrally plan scheme. जो centrally plan scheme है, जो देखिए जो IRDP स्टार्ट की, जवाहर रोजगार योजना है, CDP है, NES है, so all these schemes fail in a major way. So उसके बाद the real issue came into the front, that if these local institutions are not given constitutional status, then these funds and these schemes, they are not going to provide any fruitful results. Then by adding PRIs to Part 9 of Constitution, the 73rd Amendment, it transformed Panchayati Raj from an administrative body into a constitutional institution. So now they are not the tool of state government, they are not extending services of state government, but a constitutional independent body. And they have a three-tier structure: Gram Panchayat, Panchayat Samiti, and Jila Parishad. And this independent constitutional status, it mirror, in the words of political theorist Montesquieu's idea of distributed power. Then the 74th Amendment, it was entered into Constitution under Part 9A, and all such functions have been given. ये सब हम देख चुके हैं. Now the theoretical significance and democratic deepening, first enhancing political participation. So from democratic theory perspective, जो अभी ऊपर देखी है, that democracy will be meaningful only if reaches the least advantage, if it addresses the concerns of the smallest unit. So from this theory, the amendments, they expanded the arena of political participation, creating institutional space for marginalized communities. So this expansion and inclusion of marginalized group, this aligns with John Stuart Mill's argument that local governance, they act as training ground for democratic citizenship. Now, the second significance, fulfilling social justice goals. So these amendments they serve as a practical application of Rawlsian principle of justice. Rawlsian, the principle of John Rawls. So here, the justice have been given to those who are historically excluded. So these people they have gained political representation. So this act matches with theory of justice given by John Rawls. Yet अभी हमने shortcomings में देखा था the reports given by second ARC that most of the representation it is a proxy by the elites. Now the third significance is participatory democracy through Gram Sabha and ward committees. So the concept of Gram Sabha it resonates with Rousseau's general will and Habermas' deliberative democracy. However, again the shortcomings that these institutions they remain weak, underutilized, and manipulated. Now implementation deficit, a critical appraisal through committee findings. So CAG reports it highlighted that these units they are financially dependent on state, social audits are weak, and consultation of state finance commission it is delayed. Second ARC it found bureaucratic dominance and incomplete functional devolution. Niti Aayog it found there is a gap in digital divide, digital reach, and capacity deficits are there. Gram Sabhas are non-functional. Then RBI report on municipal finance, it found that urban bodies are weakest globally in fiscal capacities. So the theoretical promise of autonomous local governance is undermined by state governments' reluctance to transfer real power. This reflects a unitary bias in federalism. This is again a core part of the significance that is asked by UPSC. Now, global best practices first. So, Brazil's participatory budgeting, the Porto Alegre model, where citizens they directly influence budget allocations. The second global best practice, South Africa's Local Government Act, where public consultation are mandatory, which institutionalize participatory governance. So we can also uh, institutionalize the Gram Sabha meetings or Gram Sabha audits. And then Philippines barangay system, where local units they have been given substantial autonomy that handle development funds and public services. Now let's have a look at interrelationship between grassroots democracy, international linkages, and comparative federalism. So, in the words of Mahatma Gandhi, true democracy cannot be worked from above. It has to come from people themselves. And this democracy from below, it has been empowered by both these constitutional amendments. But here, this transition is still incomplete. However, these institutions, their significance, they transcend national boundaries, aligning with global democratic standards, sustainable development goals, and comparative federal structure. Let's see how. SDG 11 and international commitments localizing global goals. So, linking the amendments with SDG 11. Sustainable Development Goal 11, which calls about making cities and human settlement inclusive, safe, resilient, and sustainable. And this idea it directly resonates with the objective of 74th Amendment. So here, urban local bodies that are created by 74th Amendment, they are pivotal in delivering urban infrastructure, slum development, housing, and public services, all core targets under SDG 11. Then, effective Panchayati Raj institution they contribute to SDG 3, that is about good health, SDG 4 about quality education, SDG 5 about gender equality, and SDG 6 about clean water and sanitation. Now, the second significance or interrelation This international framework, like UN Habitat's New Urban Agenda, it emphasized local government's role in inclusive governance, promoting participatory planning, and strengthening fiscal autonomy. So here, India's constitutional commitment to decentralization, that is seen by both 73rd and 74th amendments, it aligned with this global principle. Now, the dimension of comparative federalism. Here, the examples have been given, the best practices. First, Brazil, budgeting as a deep decentralization. So, Porto Alegre's participatory budgeting, it allows citizens to decide up to 20% of city budgets annually. So, these are global best practices that we can take cues from. And these, while looking at by comparing Indian cities, Indian ULB with these cities, we can also situate where India lies in at global level. Now, impact of this model here, it increase equity, improve service delivery, and citizen engagement. So ये यहाँ पे आप देख रहे हैं the citizens, they can decide up to 20% of city budgets annually. So this is, I can see it's an innovative thing here. Now, the relevance to India, that while Gram Sabhas and ward committees exist, but as seen by CAG and Niti reports that they are weak. So India can institutionalize participatory budgeting that empower citizens of both PRIs and ULBs genuinely. And even if it is about deciding 20 or 30% budget, it can be significant. Now, the second model, South Africa's strong local autonomy in constitution. South African constitution, it declared local government as distinct and interdependent sphere. So here, integrated development plans, they ensure that local priorities, they shape regional and national plans. So here, this amendment, this power, it is similar to what has been given by 73rd and 74th amendment, but yet they have achieved, they are framed as a success story. So the problem here in India are that despite these amendments, Indian Panchayati Raj institutions and urban local bodies, they are treated as an extension of state government, even if they have been given constitutional status. Whereas in South African case, these local government, they are distinct, different, and interdependent sphere. So to to recognize them as distinct unit, it can strengthen their autonomy. Now, the third, Philippines model. Here, barangays are empowered with substantial financial and functional authority. So this, again, can be an empowering tool where a citizen can directly engage in development project and local budgeting. और इंडिया में ये चीज़ बार बार सामने आ ही रही है that panchayats have the similar potential, but lack of financial autonomy and functionality, it hampers their impact. Now, critical evaluation, federalism, and local governance debate. First, the unitization of federalism. So, while India is constitutionally federal, scholars like Granville Austin, they argue that India is a federal with a unitary bias. So, and here, state control finance, personnel, and major development function that undermine the spirit of local governance. The second thing, incomplete realization of federal aspirations. So बहुत सारी reports में देखा गया है कि most states they have not devolved the three apps जो ज़रूरी चीज़ें होती है for any unit of government to function properly. These three apps, functions, funds, and functionaries, ये जो है state government has not devolved them. So ये again, it is again the federal spirit. Then SFC recommendation, State Finance Commission recommendation, they are largely advisory and weakly implemented or never implemented at all. Third, urban bodies they lack financial independence, which is reflected in RBI's 2022 report that places Indian municipality among the world's weakest fiscal health. So यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं कि ULBs को पावर दी गई है but they are not utilizing it, or those state government है they are not providing them with anything, any tool, any mechanism, any support so that they can raise their own revenue. Then centralization of flagship programs. So important programs like NREGA, PMIY, SBM, they are often centrally driven. और फिर उसमें PRIs and ULB they are implementing agencies. So here ये जो चीज़ें हैं like NREGA work, construction work, relief work और famine work, अब ये जो है ये तो पंचायती राज के डोमेन में होना चाहिए, लेकिन यहाँ पे एक टॉप डाउन अप्रोच में ये चीज़ सेंटर के द्वारा चलाई जाती है. सो उसमें PRIs जो है दे एंड अप बीइंग द इम्प्लीमेंटिंग एजेंसी rather देन ऑटोनमस डिसीजन मेकर. सो यहाँ पे जो क्रूशियल जो डिसीजन मेकर है वो ये होने चाहिए, क्योंकि ये जो चीज़ है ये वन साइज फिट्स ऑल वाली चीज़ हो ही नहीं सकती है. हर जगह पे अलग अलग तरह की ज़मीन है. ये रिलीफ वर्क भी चल रहा है या फेमिन वर्क भी चल रहा है, तो राजस्थान की ज़मीन अलग है, वेस्ट बंगाल की अलग है, नॉर्थ ईस्ट की अलग है. सबको आप और सबके टाइमिंग अलग है, सबके रूट अलग है, लोकल कंडीशंस जो हैं वो अलग अलग हैं. ऐसे में ये जो सेंट्रली या टॉप डाउन जो स्कीम्स हैं ये सही नहीं है. And this approach has been criticized by scholar Nirja Gopal Joyaljas as technocratic bypassing of local democracy. Now, the road ahead, strengthening decentralized democracy. So, scholars argue that three F's, functions, funds, and functionaries, they remain partially devolved, and to strengthen local governance, we should first, mandatorily devolve all 29 and 18 urban subjects, empower Finance Commission with binding recommendations, professionalization of Panchayat and municipal administration, digital integration, and revival of Gram Sabha and ward committees. So again, then these things have been repeating, themes and recommendations are repeating again. Now, uh, priority areas and suggested reform. In fiscal federalism, SFCs should be strengthened. First, they should be constituted after every 5 years. Then, innovative techniques like innovative tools like municipal bonds, land pooling, or any such out of box thinking, they can be integrated so that ULBs and panchayats both can raise their own revenue. Then, participatory governance. First, participatory budgeting should be institutionalized, and this can revive Gram Sabha and ward committee with real power. Now, as of capacity building, uh, a dedicated panchayat and urban cadre can be developed. As of legal empowerment, there is a need to amend laws to treat PRIs and ULB as distinct federal sphere or distinct entities. Now, as of technology use, implement e-panchayat and smart ULB platform for transparency, real-time monitoring, and grievance redressal. So, ये जो suggestions हैं, these are really helpful because they integrate an element of global best practices here. So, this is it. In the next topic, we will look at grassroots movements. So, for now, this is it. Thank you very much and subscribe the channel.